is your husband good with you writing that book? And I was like, yes, he was the most supportive, but very vulnerably about my stories. And that was a little scary. And then what I did was I took the tools that I've used to heal, such as journaling, meditation, mantra. And at the end of most of the chapters, I included some sort of tool that the reader could then, if they choose, implement to help them kind of start to recognize, first of all, that voice is separate.
Welcome to the Phase 4 podcast, inspired by Vishen Lakhiani and Ajit Nawalkar, co-founders of EverCoach, a division of Vine Valley. In this podcast, we speak to coaches and creatives about where they were, where they are, and where they are going. This is the intersection of what we focus on expands, and your story is your superpower. My guest today is Jenny Greene. She is an author of the book called Brainbitch, How I Quiet My Inner Mean Girl. And today we're going to talk about that and much more. And Jenny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, JP, for having me.
Yeah, definitely grateful. I've been checking out your book and it resonates a lot. And I'm sure it's going to resonate with our audience. So maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself and what do you do?
All right. Well, I am a mom of 3 adult boys. I've been married for 27 years to my high school sweetheart. And I'm a yoga instructor. So I've been doing that since 2016. And that was really my path to healing, is yoga. So I grew up in Midwest, small town in Iowa. And I had this resonating story in my whole life since I was about 3 years old. There was a traumatic situation in my family. And it just kind of planted the seed of I'm not enough. And that grew all my life. And then as I became older, it turned into more like self-esteem issues, self-hatred issues. Then having kids, it turned into anxiety, serious panic attacks, like severe panic attacks, maybe 7 or 8 a day. And sometimes they last up to 20 minutes. So I was learning how to live this life and like meander through it, kind of looking good on the outside and a whole hot mess on the inside. And so that manifested into all sorts of things, like need for perfectionism, need for people to validate me, codependency. And to make matters worse, my religious beliefs were just amplifying it all. And so when I became a yoga instructor, 2016, I kind of inched my way in with like an online training before online was really going big in the training world. And then I took another training in person after I'd started teaching. And that's when things really turned around for me. I got introduced to the 8 limbs of yoga. And I just fell in love with the idea that we could study ourselves and learn about ourselves. And I worked through these 8 limbs of yoga very intensely for about 2 to 3 years. And in that time, I was also introduced to a book called The Untethered Soul that my husband said, I think you'd like this. I think everybody probably, most of the people probably that listen to your podcast have at least heard of it. It changed my life too, because I was like, wait a minute, all these things going on in my head, they're in my head and it's not me. And I thought it was me the whole time. I thought I was all those things. So that's where the work came in. And then I wound up telling my stories in this book that I call The Brainbitch. And she got her name, a nickname, well before the book, because as I'm working through, like, wait a minute, you're not being very nice to me. I'm kind of a bitch sometimes. And she was my Brainbitch. So that's where I'm at. And that's how I got here.
I love it. I call it the analyzer, right? There's a voice inside, and if you let it, it will tell you to do whatever. And if you listen to it, you get yourself in big trouble, right? And I think
trouble.
We know something like we have 60,000 and 90,000 thoughts a day, and most of them, 95%, are the same as the day before. And so we're just telling ourselves these stories over and over and over again. And so they get locked in like neuroplastically, and we start to believe them. Not because they're true, but because they feel like, oh, okay, this feels normal, right? This feels like what I'm used to. And so
absolutely.
I love your story, and I love the idea that you're not just like, you went through it, right? You lived it, so you understand it. And I think the religion one is big. Like a lot of people very similar, where like, oh, once we start asking questions about it, we're told to be quiet, and like, why is that, right? And maybe for a long time we do that. Then later on, we're like, no, man, there's something here, and nobody's answering my questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My experience with that was, and I grew up in a Lutheran church, and it's very legalistic as it is. And, so I'm getting told as a very young child, like, that not worthy story. You're a sinner, you're not worthy of God's love, all but the grace of God. And as I continued to go to church as an adult, I just never could feel like these things that they told me I should feel, like this peace that passes all understanding. Like, well, where is that? I must be doing something wrong. I can't find it, And I would say now, which is interesting, I'm no longer going to a physical building of church, but I feel like my spirituality and my connection with God has grown like exponentially outside of those four walls, which, like you said, we're told not to look elsewhere. And for that connection, and I found it outside of those four walls. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you say that, I feel the same way. Like, where the way I look at God is totally different, but it's way stronger, and I feel more connected than I ever did. Stand, sit, kneel.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you. I want to just read a little review about your book, and then we can talk about your book. But it's Brainbitch, a candid look at the negative self-talk and how to shift to a place of love and peace. The author gives useful tools for working with negative self-talk in a very open and honest way. Many will be able to relate to her deep emotional pain and how the religion she grew up with did not provide the healing she needed. I appreciate her dedication to personal transformation. That's from Sharon. But can you tell us now about your book?
Yes. So what I did with my book was I wrote very vulnerably. I've even had people ask me, like, is your husband good with you writing that book? And I was like, yes, he was the most supportive, but very vulnerably about my stories. And that was a little scary. And then what I did was I took the tools that I've used to heal, such as journaling, meditation, mantra. And at the end of most of the chapters, I included some sort of tools that the reader could then, if they choose, implement to help them kind of start to recognize, first of all, that voice is separate from themselves, from their inner deep self. You've got the ego voice, and that's the one we're talking about. That's kind of the brain bitch. And not always, sometimes it's useful, right? We need it, but it's those, like you said, the stories that play on repeat that aren't serving us that then grow and take over the areas. So, getting people to recognize that, then we kind of work into like, okay, now that I've got it, it's a different voice. What do I do with it? How do I shush her down? She's been in the driver's seat so long and crashing me and trying to get me off the, side of the cliff, ruin my life. How do I put her in the back seat and really start to take back control of life thoughts? And so that's where the book kind of goes. But I like to say it kind of takes you down in the valley, you're like, oh, this is getting deep. This is getting a little messy for me, and then it brings you back up out of it with hope and like,
Do you know who Lisa Nichols? Sorry, do you know who Lisa Nichols is?
Yeah, I've heard of Lisa Nichols for sure. Yeah.
Okay. She talks very similar about how to tell a story, like the way you just said that. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So I think that, one of the important things that I wanted to do with my book is help other women specifically, but I have a lot of men who have read it who really resonated with it as well, which is super cool. And I call them their brain bastard. But I just really felt like there's a lot of us that, there's a kind of a term around now, imposter syndrome. I think there's a lot of us walking around that are doing life pretty successfully from the outside. And then on the inside, we're really struggling with some of these inner battles that our brain bitch is telling us. And so I hope that, as they read some of these chapters, even though the stories will be different, people will be like, oh yeah, I see that in me. Like one of the ones I wrote about, for example, was in my 20s. I couldn't get a hold of my husband one day on the phone, and he's at work. And I had this story start playing. It started just real small, like, hope everything's okay. And then I wonder about that sales girl. And then like, oh my God, they work in construction. There's a model home. Like, what if they're like hooking up? And this story just snowballed throughout the afternoon. He's not answering his phone till by the time he got home, I had convinced myself my husband was having an affair with some sales girl. I've been crying. I'm a hot mess. And then he comes in. He's like, what's wrong? And I'm like accusing him now of something he didn't do because my brain took me on this wild ride, right? And then you can guess how that happened. It worked out. He's like, no. And now he's upset with me because he's like, I'm hard at work all day for our family. And this is what you're doing. You're sitting at home, like coming up with stories about me that aren't true. But that's something that our mind will do. If we can't catch it quick enough, it'll just take us on this roller coaster ride. And so I think one of the great tools that I learned was how to, notice when it's happening, sometimes quicker than others. I'm still working on it. Nobody's perfect, and we're always going to be with our ego voice. It's not going away. But then to be able like, oh, wait, we're going to stop that now. We're going to rewind, take a few breaths, and bring some truth into this situation and some, sensibility. So that was one way that I hope that people can be like, oh, these stories, they run me off here and there and then bring them back in.
Yeah. I came to this realization just recently, and I kind of knew it already, but I didn't actually articulate it. And I did it the other day, and I was like, whoa. And it is that we can reframe anything, like any single thought. And it came to me, I was running a half marathon, and my brain's like, you stop, just go, like, just stop for a little bit, just stop. And I'm like, they're like, your heart rate's too high, your heart's going to explode, you need to stop or you're going to get hurt. Yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Like, the reframe is like, just keep going and eventually we'll be finished and then it'll be over. And so I kind of knew it already, but the idea that we can reframe anything, it's got to be the most empowering thing in the whole world. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, our minds are so powerful, right? Like the power to manifest and bring in, what we desire, and we can amplify, anything that we're thinking about. And so I think, there's a lot of power in it, because if you don't reframe something negative in your mind and that gets amplified, then you wind up where I was. There's a couple times in my life that I was contemplating suicide, and I had a great life. I had a family that loved me, a beautiful home, all the things were fine. But, the space between my head wasn't right. And I didn't have to like take my brain out and have brain surgery. I just had to reframe it and learn how to constantly reframe it. And it's a process. It is painful. It took me a couple of years. I hope some people go through it quicker than I did, but it was like deconstructing the way that my brain currently looked at things and reacted and responded, and catching those as quick as I could, and then like just really changing the thought process. And part of the way that I did that, and I think people can do that, is to ask, where is that thought coming from? And do like a roll, like if you're on a path and you're walking and you need to get back, and you're like, how did I get there? You're going to go like, I passed that tree and I went past that rock, and you get your way back to where you started. I think that's part of how I did that, is I would look at something and I would retrace my steps, sometimes clear back to childhood, to figure out. And that's what I did with the You're Not Enough story. That was really my biggest overlying and underlying story. And I had no idea where that had come from. And I traced it back just one step at a time to when my brother died, and I was about 3 years old. And sitting in meditation, and I feel like Spirit revealed to me there that I felt like as a child, like I should be able to make my parents happy. Why aren't they happy that they have me? But, I didn't understand death and grief and all of those things. And so I came up with this as a small child, that I'm not enough to make them happy. And then, that it was kind of proven that that was the story, or there's proof of that because my dad's a real jokester. And one day, I guess the story goes, I don't remember this, but I was about 4 and I was bouncing through the room and he says, "Hey, who's that?" And I go, "Oh, nobody special." Now he thinks that's a cute story, but if you know that I've lived with I'm not enough since I was 3, and it kind of shows like, oh, shoot, I've been dealing with that a really long time. Nobody's special. So, yeah, that was, so you can kind of go back, and then once you can see where your things came from, then you can start to really work with them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what happens, right? We all do this before at a young age while we're just on record. We're not actually thinking for ourselves. And we pick up this message, and it could be as simple as like, Dad's on the phone working, I'm not important. And then we end up living that whole, and you step into it for the rest of your life. There's a really cool book that you might be interested in called You Are Enough by a guy named Panache Desai. And I was just like, whoa, when you were talking about I'm not enough, I started thinking about that book. But I think maybe, so we'll talk a little bit more about the book, and then I want to talk about the process of writing a book, because I know it's difficult and I know it can be tedious, and the valley comes into play, and sometimes you want to throw it out the window. But I think, so some of your mentors, would they shine through? I ask everybody some of their mentors. Yours were very resonant with this crowd. So Rachel Hollis, Brene Brown, Jen Sincero, Glennon Doyle, Michael Tether, Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights. What a book. But are these coming through in your book? And maybe talk a little bit more about the book.
Yeah, so I think that the reason those authors especially resonate with me, and I would think of them as kind of mentors, is I really value, I mentioned earlier, like truth and honesty and authenticity are really important to me. So when I read people's books, that feels like I get to know them. They're telling me their story, and I feel like when I leave that book, I know them. Like I could sit and have coffee now with them or whatever. We could have a conversation, and it would be like, we've been friends for the last 5 years. That's the kind of books I love. And that's exactly how I wrote this book, is conversationally, like girlfriend to girlfriend. Just to, when you leave it, you feel like, okay, we're in this together. We're on this journey now together, like not so alone.
Beautiful. Yeah, when you're talking about vulnerable, I obviously think Brene Brown right away, but some of the, like, I love all this. This is why I asked the question, because sometimes I'll get new stuff. So the energy bus, that's a new one for me. All the rest, they're right in my alley. So I love it. But what about, I guess, what is the, like, I know You Are Enough, but what is like the top message you want to leave with people about the book?
The top message I want to leave is that it's imperative that you start to recognize your ego voice is different from your soul voice, because your soul voice never lies to you. It tells you who you really are. It guides you. And when we're covering it with all the head trash and we're not listening to it, that's when life gets really sad and out of control. And so that's my biggest message, is to learn to listen to your heart voice more than your head voice. Oh.
Yeah, I love it. Ego, edge God out, and then soul God inside. So
absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Have you read a book called, so you Untethered Soul, but have you read the other one called Living Untethered?
It's on my bookshelf right now, but I'm not into it yet. I always have a stack like this big, so. But yes, I do own it.
Yeah, it's so good. I just read it earlier this year, and it's so good. He's such the way he explains it, right? Like, you're probably close to him, so you go down to the Temple of the Universe ever?
No, not yet.
Not too far. All right. So now I would love to know about the process of writing a book. How was that for you? Was unexpected? What were I'm sure there was lots of highs and lows. So are you interested in talking about that?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. So I wanted to be a journalist growing up. I did not pursue that because I went and I actually visited the Rocky Mountain newspaper, Rocky Mountain News, when they were in publishing. And I got to take a tour and talk to different people. And all I could see, even at like my 15-year-old self, was, but I want to be a mom. And I talked to the wrong writing people because they were out writing news stories at 4 a.m. as they broke and, on the scene. And I was like, no, I can't be a writer and be a mom. And it never occurred to me that I would write a book. I just thought I would write journalism. But I've always loved to read. I've loved to journal. And I started to journal. It would come through like, I want to write a book. But then my Brainbitch would get in the way and say, you don't have anything to say. Or, nobody's going to listen to you. So I would write like a chapter of something, and then I would put it down. And then I'd think, oh, yeah, but here she did it again, that thing in my brain, And so I would write something else. And then, so finally I said, okay, this might be coming together into something. So I just started like a Google Drive and started just like putting titles on different documents, where, the Google Drive documents, and what I thought it would be about. And then I'd just come back sometimes and look at them and be like, today that resonates with me. I'm going to write about that. And then I actually took a training, around online writing training. And that kind of pushed me forward a little bit more, gave me some tools for like, well, how do you put chapters in order and how do you pick where things go? I started doing that. And then I had the coolest experience of one of my yoga students. I'd known her like 3 or 4 years. And it's a group that I work with seasonally here in Florida because we have snowbirds, right? So they're only here 6 months out of the year. And they were getting ready to go home. And we decided we'd have a little happy hour right after the class to say goodbye till next season. Everybody's getting ready to leave. And I know it was God, it was spirit, it was universe speaking to me because I couldn't ask what everybody did before they retired. So I did. And lo and behold, she's like, I was a copy editor. I authored a book. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm working on a book. And I'm telling you, JP, I've been working on for like at that point, maybe 2 years. And I was telling like 5 people in my life knew, like nobody knew I was writing a book. And so she said, I would like to work with you on this book if you want me to. And I thought, oh God, somebody's going to read my manuscript, but I let her and she loved it. And so for the next year we worked on, and what's interesting is I think a lot of people write a lot and they have to edit out. And she was like, I need you to tell me more. I need you to write more. And I kept telling her, I'm like, I want it to be a short book because I think women are busy and it's a women's book and I wanted it to be small so they can put it in their bag, put it in their diaper bag, whatever, keep it in the car, read little bits at a time. And probably, it's little. You can finish it in a weekend, or whatever, and then go back and work on the tools. And so we found our sweet spot on how much I was willing to say and talk about and the length. And then I think I already know where the next one's going. So that's kind of cool.
Awesome. There's a next one. I think a couple of things people might have missed right in there. So everything happens in divine timing, right? You weren't ready before, you had it on the shelf. And then this person that you didn't know they were an editor, but it just happened. The universe put you in the room there with those people at that time. And if it happened before you weren't ready for it, you might not have said anything. And then another thing is that you didn't want to share it with other people, which is, I think this is a good tip for writers. Write the book for yourself and then share it with other people. Like it's got to be like, not as a conversation with yourself, but you're going through your own stuff definitely for a nonfiction book. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it was very cathartic, very healing to write the book.
Cathartic's the right word. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. It's like a release, right? Yeah, amazing.
Then you have to get over the fear of putting it out into the world, though. And especially if you write memoir style.
I did my first one last year, but I hid behind like a pen name because of that fear. So there's another good tip. Make up a pen name and then you don't have to put yourself out there, and you can, if you don't want to.
I guess I could change my name after the fact to something else and nobody knows me, right?
I think as we're going to wind down, if this episode resonates, please like, subscribe, share, and follow. And reach out to Jenny if you need tips on writing a book. You want to check out her book. If you're in the Florida area, you want to do some yoga. She's got it all going on.
I do.
And I think I ask everyone this question. So this is the Phase 4 podcast, and Phase 4 in the 6 phase meditation by Vishen Lakhiani is all about creating a future 3 years from now. So where is Jenny 3 years from today?
Oh, gosh. I know that I'm going to continue this work that I'm working on myself. I think the last chapter of the book is work of a lifetime. We keep doing it. So I know that I will be continuing to write. And I hope the next book is out in the next 3 years. And then I have this vision, we'll see if it comes to pass, but of being able to combine those two loves together, the yoga and this message of the book, and maybe host some retreats. Florida is a beautiful place to host some yoga retreats where we would do yoga, we would do meditation, breath work, and like guided journaling sessions and meet some good friends and that sort of thing. So I'd like to host a few of those.
That sounds awesome. You said it earlier too, yoga, journaling, and meditation, they all help you heal in different ways. They all help you also grow and expand in different ways. And I'm wondering, is there other things that you include that, I don't know, maybe you don't, but is there other things that you do as, I guess, self-care, is it?
For self-care, I guess like I said, I use mantra a lot, especially early on was something so mantra is like a word or a set of words, even a sound that can get you into the present moment. So I will use that as a tool if I can't quiet my mind to bring me out of that spin space. And so that's one of the things that I really like to do. And then getting in nature. So I live close to a beach. I think that's really important. I think you get your feet on the ground and fresh air in your lungs. So, going out for walks, getting sunshine, that sort of thing is really healing as well. Sometimes we don't feel like getting out if we're feeling depressed or in our funk. And that's, I think, one of the best things you can do.
It's the way you have to fight back because that happens to everybody. It's, there's something called situational depression, right? Where like, let's say you've been working on this book forever and then all of a sudden now it's written, it's out there. Now what? And then it's really easy to go in a dip. It happened to me last week. I ran a half marathon last weekend. This whole week I've been but instead of, I know about it, right? So instead of fighting it or anything, I'd sit with it. And the nature is the cure. You're right. And
yeah,
as far as mantras, you gave me a good segue. So this is also from your book. Look into the mirror, into your own eyes, and say it out loud. I love you. I forgive you. You are enough. And so that's an overarching message, I think, of your book. I love you. I forgive you. You're enough for everybody. That's the reframe, right? Instead of you're not enough, you suck, and I hate you. You're enough. So definitely love it. I think usually before I ask my final question, I let the guests take it wherever they want. So if you have something to sell it. If you have a message of hope or inspiration or just something we don't know about you, like unicorn, mermaid, and hippie or anything.
all of the above. Yeah. I see you've been doing your research, JP. So I wish you could see my room right now. I can't really turn it around, but yes, it's full of unicorns. I love kind of the mystical, and I'm kind of a big kid. Like over here is a bunch of stuffed animals. I don't see any reason that I can't be a mature mom and wife, and I have a job, and I do yoga, teach yoga and all this, and also have fun and be sparkly and, sleep with a teddy bear. So yeah, that's a little about me. There's definitely an inner child that I let shine unashamed. And then, like for what I could sell is just, I hope people will pick up the book. I think it makes a great gift too, or, for a girlfriend that, might be going through something, or a book club, like get together with your girlfriends. When I read Rachel Hollis's book, Girl Wash Your Face, I loved it so much. I put together a book club with some friends. I said, come on, we got to read this together. And I read it again. And I can see people doing that with this and really helping each other, which I think would be beautiful. And so you can find the book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online.
Amazing. Yeah, that Rachel Hollis book is good too. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, but I did.
Yeah. Her and I have some similar stories too. I'd love to meet her someday.
Yeah. There you go. That's planting the seed. And one thing about the book is that it's actionable. As you heard at the beginning, at the end of each chapter, there's prompts or sets that something you can take. So it's not just reading a book. You can actually open and expand yourself further.
Yeah.
And so go ahead, please.
I was going to say, so I like the paperback version better than of course I made the ebook version, but I'm one of those girls that's like in a dog tail that whatever it's called, dog ear the pages and highlight. This is one of those books you're going to want to highlight and go back, I think, and look at your journey. You can bring it out maybe 2 more years from now and be like, whoa, look how far I've come, with my little notes in the side.
Amazing. So my final question is, how can people reach you?
Okay. So Facebook and Instagram, I'm at author Jenny Greene, and Greene is with an E. That's a little tricky. And then my website is brainbitchbook.com. And I do have a blog there that I'm working on, and I want to continue to expand that so that people who have enjoyed the book have a little bit more, meat going forward. And my goal is to kind of bring that forward into the new book. So, yeah,
Right.
I'll follow the blog.
And stay tuned for the new book. Jenny, I'm so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Oh, thank you, JP, for having me. I love this conversation.